Buffet Bobadilla here. Jamie Cipher, I believe, will be joining us a few minutes late. County Commissioners, Commissioner Mudge, Commissioner Marcella,
Here.
and Commissioner Fiedler.
Here.
Any changes or additions to the agenda? Okay, we have minutes that came out for May 23rd. Has everybody had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Okay, and just making sure we were all here for them. 3 of us were, so that should work. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for May 23rd?
Make the motion to approve those minutes in the 23rd.
Can I get a second?
I second them. Motion.
Thanks. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I
This moves us down, wrong page, sorry. Moves us down to updates from the staff on DOLA training and the July files.
I think you've all received the email that DOLA is going to be doing a virtual training with us, Planning 101, for our next regular meeting. So pretty exciting that we've been able to coordinate that. We talked about that at our last meeting. And I think everybody is looking forward to that training. Heather and I met with Casey, who's going to be the trainer from DOLA, and just kind of went through what the kind of expectations are going to be of the training. And so I think she's well versed in being prepared to work with all of us and present a really awesome training at our next meeting. And also just wanted to tonight we're going to have a little bit of a work session on the special event facility use that's being proposed. But if there are still remaining questions that we need to talk about, we can do that after the DOLA training at the next meeting. And then with anticipating that that's going to be a public hearing July 11th. We have a really full schedule coming up. So I just wanted to let everyone know on the Planning Commission and the board that we are flush with land use applications. So our next July 11th, we're going to see 3 CUPs plus the code amendment. And it's going to continue to be very active like that. July 25th. Will be most likely 2 more CUPs and 2 site plans. And then we have probably 8 more land use applications that are in review right now. So anything that's new that's coming in won't be heard until the fall, but I really believe that we are going to have very full agendas from now until the end of the year. So I know that we always tentatively think that schedules are going to be from 4 to 6, but in reality, many of our seasoned members already are well aware that we go as long as it takes. So I'm going to try really hard to be cognizant of the amount of detail within each application and try not to overburden the agenda, but still try to balance the amazing amount of demand that we have right now. So I'm going to try to look at not putting more than 4 files on and thinking that we're going to average about anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour or maybe even more per application. So it may result in a need to table occasionally an application if we get to a hard stopping place, but just wanting everyone to know that as you're making summer plans and things are coming up, if for any reason you can't be present, please give us as much notice as possible so we can always make sure that we have a quorum when we're going to be having applications. And I think that's all the updates that I have.
Yeah, I think just to trail on that just a little bit, the quorum thing can start to get real ugly. If we get to the point where we don't have at least 3 of our members, and I think even if it's a joint 2 commissioners, and we have to push something to the next agenda, obviously that's already full with something. So it'll really start to backlog. We'll have to look at special meetings and such. So we have to just try to do what we can as far as that piece goes. I think the other really important piece to make it, we'll probably go over this a little bit in the training too, but to make it streamlined is that if we can really review our materials before the meeting, and write down any questions you may have, and even if there's some preliminary questions that you want to shoot off to Ann ahead of time might be a good idea, because waiting until the night of thinking we're going to just approve something quickly and then, you know, getting inundated with a page long full of questions can also cause huge delays. So just some things to think about. I do think it's going to be a busy, but I think it'll be kind of exciting and neat to be a part of summer, but I think we have to plan on making sure we're here as much as we possibly can be. So
yeah, thank you so much. And it just made me think of something, but I forgot what it was as quickly as I remembered. So
okay.
sounds fun.
All right, well, we'll move right along in that theory. New business, we have a joint public hearing for file 22-10, which is the urban multifamily residential district in Twin Lakes, and this is a rezone application. I'm gonna go ahead and start. Do I need to read something before I start it? Yeah, I may have something. I just don't know if it references the correct.
The reason, last one that we did, but I can find that email and shoot it over to you, or put it in the report and.
I have just a basic one from the just a public hearing opening statement.
I think I've got it right. Send you, I think I've got it marked as reason. I'll just say CDP. Send you the rezone.
You clicking?
Yeah, no, I've got it.
Okay. Okay, the Lake County Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners will now conduct a joint public hearing. The statement I'm reading shall be incorporated into and made part of the record on these proceedings. The Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners have jurisdiction to conduct a joint public hearing on a rezoning under section 3.13 of the Lake County Land Development Code. The purpose of this hearing is to consider whether the proposed amendment should be approved. In considering that matter, the commission will address the approval criteria set forth in section 3.13.3 of the Lake County Land Development Code. This procedure for tonight will be as followed. Number one, members of the commission and or the board will disclose if they've had any ex parte communications. 2, the county staff will make their initial presentation. 3, the applicant may then make their presentation. 4, after that, any persons either supporting or opposing the application may present evidence. 5, supporting and opposing witnesses may be questioned by the commission and the board. Once questioning is concluded, no further questioning is permitted unless granted by the chair. 6, the applicant may then present any rebuttal evidence. The parties and witnesses here are asked not to submit redundant, irrelevant, or cumulative evidence. If someone has already made the point that you wish to make, please simply say so. The chair will also require that all comments be made to the planning commission and the board, and that there be no dialogue between applicant and members of the audience. At the conclusion of the evidentiary portion of the hearing, the chair will entertain a motion to close the evidentiary portion of the hearing, and the commission will discuss and weigh the evidence. Then there will be a motion to close the discussion phase of the joint public hearing. The Board of County Commissioners will then leave the meeting, and the chair of the Planning Commission will entertain a motion on the application. The motion may take the form of one of the following recommendations. 1, approve the application with no conditions. 2, approve the application with recommended conditions. 3, approve the application with newly identified conditions. Or 4, deny the application. The planning director shall make a good record of any substantial discussion on the motion and include that in the record with the recommendation of the commission. The commission's recommendation will be in the form of a statement of motion. Are there any objections to the jurisdiction of the commission or the form or substance of these proceedings? Okay, hearing none, I will now ask each planning commission member and then each county commissioner if you've had any ex parte communications to disclose, and if so, to disclose them now. And I'll just name people off here. We have Howard Tritz.
We have none.
Abby Dahlman.
I have none.
Bryce Ehrlich.
No.
Lupe Bobadilla.
None.
Great, and Heather Lind, none. Commissioner Marcella.
None.
Commissioner Fiedler.
None.
Great. Okay, now staff will go ahead and make the presentation.
Thank you. This is an application requesting consideration to rezone several parcels located in the Twin Lakes area. There are 3 tracts, all of which were created through a probate case in 1982, basically making them legal parcels. We recognize them as such. And this is a situation that we are familiar with. We recently heard an application very much like this one. There are 3 property owners involved. The applicants on this application are Bradley and Ashley Thompson, John and Donna White, and Miroslav Bodanik. And I will apologize on the last property owner if I have not said your name correctly. So hopefully I've done the best there with that. As we know from the last time that we heard this application, the similar one, this is a zoning that all we can do is contribute it to the influence that a developer had in the 70s when zoning was introduced, and that developer had a dream putting in the Quail Mountain ski area. And this RM zoning, or urban multifamily residential, was believed to support the thought of housing the workforce that would work within the resort, and also second home ownership. And so it is defined as allowing relatively high density single and multifamily residential development and associated uses in patterns of urban and urbanizing land use. It's not hard to recognize that this zoning is in conflict with the actual use of the land and how it lies today. It also is in conflict with the Lake County Comprehensive Plan, which would see this kind of zoning in urbanizing areas located typically outside the periphery of the city limits, and not in rural remote areas like Twin Lakes. It's also in conflict with the water use. This zoning prohibits single family homes, but allows multi units. So whereas each of these parcels are eligible for single in-house use wells, they are not allowable without a water augmentation to have water that could serve these parcels. And again, this isn't an area neither within basic planning principles or the comp plan that we would want to see this kind of density or this kind of zoning. So it is pretty easy for staff to bring forward this information and a recommendation to the Planning Commission and to the Board of County Commissioners that this zoning really isn't consistent with the land and the landscape of this area. And so within the staff report, all that information is contained, as well as a review of the approval criteria that Heather spoke about in the opening statement under 3.13.3, the approval criteria. And one of those findings only needs to be made if you find that the zoning is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. This is also not a situation of spot zoning. It is unconstitutional to spot zone an area, illegal further to spot zone. But again, this application contains a total of 27 acres and has adjacency to the recreational zoning, which is more consistent with the use of this parcels and as evidenced by the adjacent parcels. The majority of the land is in this area. So I have submitted suggested motions, one for approval, one for denial, and one for a tabling if more information needed to be brought forth in consideration of this application. So I will just ask if the Planning Commission or board has any questions for staff. Otherwise, one of the applicants is present today with us. I don't see anyone online, but I would like to introduce them and they can fill in any information that I may have missed.
Did you want to put the map up on these
Yeah,
ones?
that would be great. Yeah, Bryce, do you mind driving? Yeah, let's also provide a visual of where we're talking about. And so this like kind of teal colored area and right where Bryce
Can you share
is
this on Zoom?
putting over the,
Oh, this is not on Zoom.
yeah, let's do, oh, there we go. There we go. So now we are, okay. Everyone can see that, okay? Great. So it's those three parcels right there that this application is for. We recently rezoned this area right in here to recreational. And so now it's these parcels, and really unbeknownst to any of these property owners, it wasn't until Bradley and Ashley Thompson we're looking at developing this particular parcel that it came to light for these property owners that they were even in the RM zone district. Their desire, as with this is a new owner. This owner has been in ownership for a period of time. This is John White. This was a recent deed transfer as well. And so all of these property owners are seeking to use these parcels for single family home use, which currently would be prohibited in the zoning. Just to give a good visual of this area. This has been used traditionally as a mobile home manufactured park. That probably more aligns with the zoning. These two parcels are currently in discussions on a conservation easement. So I'm not sure where the zoning will land on those. They may be looking for the same relief eventually, but right now I would suggest this kind of clears up the zoning that's out of proportion for the future land use map within the comp plan and just for basic planning principles.
Great. Yeah, we can go ahead and introduce the applicants.
Great. So we have Bradley and Ashley Thompson, and I'm not sure what your name is. And
Liam, thanks for joining us
Thanks for
tonight.
joining us. Yeah. So anything that you'd like to fill in that I haven't shared?
I feel like you pretty much covered it. You know, we bought the property as to build our dream home, you know, build a log cabin. And she discovered it. I did not, coming from Florida, when you pull up the land usage, that is what the zoning is. And so when we pulled it up and it said agricultural grassland, I'm like, hey, we're good. And did not realize that it was also multifamily. So that brings us to where we are. So
Planning Commission or County Commissioners, do anybody have any questions for staff or the applicant?
I actually had a clarification if I did. I mean, the spot zoning, I don't think I'd heard that term before. Is that just sort of like you're not allowed to take like one parcel or a small set of parcels, just like islanded in the middle of somewhere.
Yeah, like our weird residential up by the dump is. But it was done years ago, but that's something that's not allowed again. Yeah. Anybody on Zoom? Lupe, Abby, anybody have any questions?
Nope, no questions.
No questions.
All right, well, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
They'll make that motion to close this public hearing.
Second.
All in favor of closing public hearing? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, at this time, this public hearing for this file, sorry, I just lost my page here. 2210. 2210 is closed. Commissioners, Neely, do you want us to text you as soon as we're done making our motion on this one, and you can come right back in? I don't anticipate it'll be longer than a couple minutes.
Sure. sounds good.
No, it's like some weird rule that we can't be influenced by them being in the room, so that's all. It's really weird. It doesn't make sense. Anybody want to make a motion to start discussion?
To write up all these motions.
Mhm.
I
Right here.
don't have. First, before I make the motion, I was really surprised that it took so long to get these straightened out. We just didn't realize it.
We didn't know there were a problem here.
Yeah, we did not. And I remember back when Denny did all this. And it was all fine and good because he's going to have all the business and everything out there, but.
Yeah.
Now we're finally getting it straightened out. So I would make the motion to approve it. Okay, I, Howard Fritz, move the planning commission recommend approval to the Lake County Board of County Commissioners of file number 22-10. Urban multifamily residential RM Twin Lakes rezone. And further finding that one, the proposed rezone is determined to be consistent with the Lake County Comprehensive Plan. And that's it.
Second.
That's a short one.
Second, okay. Any discussion on the motion?
No.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote on that. As soon as I open up my Howard Fritz.
Here, yes.
Abby Dahlman,
Aye.
Lupe Bobadilla,
Aye.
Bryce Erlich,
Aye.
and Heather Lind, aye. Motion carries. County Commissioners.
It's good to get those.
Now our recommendation goes to the county commissioners and they have to finalize it at their next meeting. But you're free to hang out and see what else we talk about, but it probably won't be that fun. We probably won't.
Taking the recommendation to the board on Monday. And so that's when they will make the final determination. So, okay. We email us about and the Zoom link for the meeting, or you can be here. So whichever, I'll send you all the meeting information. Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on file 22-11. Mitze SCO Site Plan Review. The application or applicant has requested that the file be tabled to June 27th to continue discussion with CDOT. So unless you have anything you want to elaborate on that, we can just make a motion. I can hear a motion too.
Yeah, just give you a quick update. We have heard from CDOT and they have now responded that they would like to see how the planning commission will consider this application, and that will kind of influence what they decide. So it does look like we'll be ready on June 27th for to finalize this ask.
Okay. Do I have a motion to table? Do we have the motion that right?
Yes.
Motion to table application to June 27th.
Yeah, I can move to table file 22-11 Mitze SCO Site Plan Review to June 27th meeting.
Second.
Second. All in favor of tabling file 22-11 to June 27? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item 3 on the agenda is a work session on file 22-23, the LDC amendment, and that's the special event facility use.
So this is, I think this is going to, I know when we start seeing code amendments, the last ones that we have done have been pretty big lifts. But generally, when we identify that, just one moment, 2 more people in the waiting room. When we look to add a use, it's usually for the exact basis for approving a code amendment, and that is that there's changing social or economic drivers, there's better planning principles or concepts, and so it just is kind of a sign of better practices. And so I would share with the group that for quite some time we've had this model of different members of the public and property owners, either that currently own property or looking to invest in property, of wanting a use that would fall under the definition of this special event facility. They want to host weddings, they want to host corporate retreats, or some kind of celebration, or some kind of outdoor event. And we kind of have lumped them into group camp for lack of having any other kind of use. But that really isn't consistent with what it is. And so this use is, I think, is more fitting when you look at the definition that was provided in the notes. And both there's a definition that would be proposed to be added to Chapter 9 for both a special event facility and then a special event. And then the use specific standards do reflect kind of a hybrid of those other kind of group camp and having a setting that you're going to have other people come to for different reasons of a commercial nature. And again, special events that are, this isn't regulating you as a homeowner wanting to have your own family or property owner, your own family there for some kind of celebration. These are meant to be kind of this is a commercial use. And so it will fall under commercial, and it will fall under recreational and entertainment outdoors. So just to be specific that we're not trying to come in and overly regulate something that should obviously be a use by right. And then it also follows kind of the format that we do for special event permitting with the A through L criteria there. Those are all kind of things that we would be looking at if they were to pull a special event permit for this kind of event. And instead of having to do that annually, this will run with the land. And so I really think there is a need for it. I think that we've tried to kind of put this into a user group that really isn't what it is. And then the use specific standards are really focused on just mitigating any kind of adverse impacts. The event management plan is reflective of like a special use permit, and then conditionally allowing it in all of the zone districts. So not introducing this necessarily. I think there's too many moving parts to make it a use by right. So the use would be added to the table, and then in any zone district that it would be considered in, it would be added conditionally. The areas to prohibit the use, of course, would be our standard IM and CI. Industrial land is not typical of what we would want to. There's too many life safety. There's also a shortage of industrial land within our landscape. So those are two really easy places, I think, to see that this wouldn't be a use that would make sense. The RN, I put that out there as prohibited, but not sure about that. Maybe that is, again, I think the only RM that we have is, we're still screen sharing, is this area in here. So I think as long as we still have it, maybe prohibiting it in those areas makes sense. I do think that pretty soon that's going to be less and less eventually as development in those areas come to the forefront. So I'm happy to entertain any questions on this, any first thoughts, revisions that anyone has, or any input. So I just love to open up the floor to the planning commission and the board for some critique of it, as well as some suggestions if there's areas that you think need to be dialed in, dialed out. Any questions, anything in here that doesn't make sense.
I would love to just make a super quick disclosure moment in that when I was reviewing this, and there's a good chance that this is something that I would be submitting a conditional use permit for at some time in the future. Not right now, but that's, I want to put that disclosure out there. I'm happy to be part of the discussion, but if anybody feels like that's inappropriate, I'm happy to also leave the discussion for that. So.
I can make a similar disclosure that we currently have been allowing some wedding events on Forest Service land to park on our land immediately adjacent to that. So we'll also probably be doing that. We don't take payment for that. We just ask for donations to local nonprofits. It's not a commercial thing, sort of. It's related to a commercial activity, but we're not directly benefiting. But yeah, similar to Heather, happy to.
Yeah, if at any point anybody feels like it's inappropriate for us to be in the conversation, please don't hesitate to say so. And or if you want to say so now, also it's fine.
I was just gonna say, if anything, it just points to the need to clarify the use. So.
Cool. So this little table that you put in here, though, that's what is currently the use table, just to clarify. And then down below is where we would be adding this in here under recreation and entertainment outdoor. We would be adding in that table the special event facility.
Exactly. Just wanted to kind of give a visual. I'm a huge visual learner. And so I just wanted to kind of put it into perspective of, what do the uses look like in the table, and where this would fit in. And so I see it under recreation and entertainment outdoor, and that's where it would be proposed, right in with kind of in counterpart to, or as another option instead of the group camps and vacation lodges that we've historically kind of lumped this use in, and it hasn't really been appropriate, I don't think. So.
Yeah, I feel there's so many times we've done that. There's so many times I feel like it's like private resort, group camp. I mean, it really doesn't fit either one, but where can we shove it? And so, and I like the size. The minimum of 10 acres makes it easy to make the impacts mitigatable. Is that a word? Able to be mitigated. Maybe better, right? So I think the initial ideas here fit well in really any zone district, because you can mitigate them with these items as well as conditional use permit. So what are other people's thoughts?
Yeah, I looked at, I think the idea is very good, but when I looked over all of these standards, number 6, the 50-foot setback back around the perimeter, and then go to number 8, adequate parking shall be provided on the site and maintain 50-foot setback. Do we need to repeat that twice? The setback?
Well, I think so, because not all setbacks include parking, right? Like usually you can park within a setback.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think this is saying that even your parking needs to be within the
Okay.
needs to.
Clarifies that. All right, I got it.
Or we could look to condense it into,
No, I think that's adequate.
So coming with the 50-foot setback, especially for property parking, I think that might be a little tough, because a lot of these 10-acre parcels that might be being developed into that are only 300 feet wide. You add in like my site, right, just as an example, with the road setback being 50 feet and. Really eliminates a lot of the actual space you can use.
So keeping in mind that, that you could look for a variance.
Okay.
Or, so if you have a parcel that is challenged in its size, so if you want to try to kind of straight across the board, look to have this standard and then allow the Board of Adjustment to consider, certain situations on a case by case basis. That might be a way to.
Would you be able to change the wording instead to so that it's mitigated more in the conditional use permit process? So it says adequate parking shall be provided with least impacts to adjacent parcels, so that you're kind of implying that it needs to not be, because the only reason to maintain the 50-foot setback, and I would think, for parking is just to mitigate your nuisance to your neighbors. And so if we just put in the general term of it needs to be put on the site with the least impact to your neighbors, then we aren't putting this restriction on that makes it really hard to go in and go through 2 different review agencies. I don't know. It seems like to me maybe that would be better.
I think that would be, if this goes to this like review permit plan, that would be kind of covered in that. It's not gonna be impacting neighbors.
Keep in mind, so if, just like with a lot of our conditional use permits, if they're going to pull a building permit, this use will need a site plan review. So you will see it in twofold. If maybe phase 1 doesn't include, so many of our development applications come in phases. And so like if in the first phase, it doesn't, they're not going to have maybe built structures, but if they will have any kind of building permit associated with the use, then the site plan application tracks with it. So we will be looking at, both. And so in the site plan, you will have more ability to be real intentional in those things. So we could put maybe not as much of a specific setback on the parking, but include some more wording. I can look to kind of wordsmith that the parking shall be hosted in a manner not to cause undue impacts or something.
Yeah. Something along those lines, because then it gives us the teeth to say, you can move this parking over here. Whereas I could see us saying, the best place for parking is here, but that's within the 50 feet. So we got to work with them somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, I just would hate to be restricted to that necessarily.
Yep.
When it's parking, the buildings, I think, should stay or.
Like Bryce brought up the sizes of these mining claims, and if you got in the inclines.
To mitigate that, I just, yeah.
Is it okay if I bring up?
Yes, please.
I guess I was wanted to just throw out, I was a little surprised to see it with backcountry, just because I do think it can be although I know it's usually like a short spurt of an impact, but it can be a pretty big impact when these kinds of events happen. And I was thinking that maybe if it's not, if it doesn't run with the land, if they do have to come in to get a management plan review for every special event, just so that, I don't know, I guess I know a lot of these parcels would probably are hard enough to get to too, that this wouldn't even be a possibility, but is what I'm saying making sense?
It is, absolutely. I think it would be really, really tough on us and staff to do any situation where somebody's deciding on every special event. I don't know that that's realistic, but I know what you're saying. And I just wonder, and maybe that's another item in here that we could strengthen, because I think about like the huts, right? Or even the cookhouse. They manage weddings up there really well, and we're kind of a perfect place for that type of situation. But they're not parking up there, they're not, you know, so the impact is lower. And so if somebody brought us, you know, an application that looks like that, it'd be easier for us to approve than somebody who's like, well, we're gonna host 200 people weddings and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. Then we can say, whoa, that impact doesn't work for backcountry. So if we strengthened our verbiage in here to make it so that the application, it may be strong, but if we, you know, reinforce that a little bit more, that I mean, at the end of the day, the whole purpose of the conditional use permit is that it's not an automatic yes. It's only if it works in the area that it's in, right? And it's not adversely affecting anything around it. And so as soon as the impact is too great for the underlying zone, as well as adjacent parcels and access, we have a real easy no on that conditional use. So the conditional use permit, just keep in mind, like that holds a whole lot of weight on a lot of this, you know, putting use by right on this use anywhere in our code, I think would be asking for trouble. So I appreciate that it's conditional use and everything, because I think that gives us a lot of control over what could it look like.
It's the leeway.
Yeah, because if people are just hiking into somebody's really cool ceremony site or whatever it is, right, and that's what they're doing, I don't, you know, it seems like that impact would be okay. But as soon as you're talking about having parking lots and pavilions and stuff in the backcountry, then we're gonna be like, I don't know about that.
See, I think along with that, on the use specific standard number 1, my thought was 10 acres of land minimum is a great idea, but the maximum occupancy of 10 people per acre is maybe a little low. You have these people investing in buying a site and building a wedding specific site. 100-person limit really limits their business as well. You know, if they're going to invest in making a very nice luxury site, as I imagine some will with this condition. I think that the conditional use permit will flush out a lot of that. Hold on, there's too many people allowed. But I think a blanket, because this is applying to all zoning codes, including, you know, not just backcountry, but places that are more accessible, then maybe the occupancy per acre could be a little higher. That's my opinion though. But I've just been to too many 200-person weddings. So.
And I did actually, and thank you, Abby, for bringing it up, because, and I forgot to mention it, I hadn't placed it yet in or out of backcountry zoning, so the be in there is business, and I had, so no, I'm glad that she brought it up, because I didn't know exactly where to land, to be honest with you. So as we were talking through this, I just wasn't sure, you know, what the feel would be, and you know, we just got done creating this zone district, so I knew it would be very you know, something that you'd all be ready to kind of talk about and think through. I know that from the very start, thank you from the very start, we had kind of intentionally left group camp and vacation lodges as an option in the backcountry. So I don't think it would be that big a stretch. And certainly with all of these conditions and with the ability to, you know, be very application specific and site specific in the review of a proposal, maybe, you know, makes completely great sense to add it conditionally. But thanks for bringing that up, Abby, because I'd actually forgot to mention that was the one zone district I just wasn't quite sure about.
Yeah, and I hear you guys. I think that all makes sense, and you're right. The criteria is, you know, you can certainly weed out a lot during CUP process. So, yeah, I mean, I do think group camp and special events do tend to kind of go hand in hand. That was going to be my other question. You know, I think a lot of, I guess just process wise, the CUP would just hold both uses. I would think most people would probably want to go for both, just to cover their bases. So. Yeah, more of a comment. That makes sense that if. Yeah, if we've already said yes to group camp. Yep. Okay.
Well, just to piggyback on that, could someone bring forth a double CUP? Like we're doing group camp as well as the special event?
It's not just, I mean, it's not like you have your conditional use permit isn't like classified as something. It's just that we classify that you need one based on what we
Those two
put you
uses are
on.
allowed.
And so you're getting a conditional use permit on the use you're presenting. And as long as that use doesn't contradict the use table,
Got it.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like this is a specific group camp CUP. I think it's we're presenting you with a conditional use permit request to use our property this way.
Uh-huh.
And if it happens, as long as none of the uses are in there contradictory to the LDC, then I think it works. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
And related to that, like, and if some of the criteria or elements of your application just don't apply, you don't just
Right, exactly.
say just apply.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
You don't have to go through.
Right, when an applicant comes in kind of with their vision and dream of what their idea is. A lot of times we immediately go to the use table and we start saying, where does this fit in? What does it match up with best? And so under special event facility, I do see where some lodging could be part of that plan. I think it will make great sense, maybe through a phase plan, originally phase one looks like this, and phase two, we have hopefully the eventual ability to put in some permanent structures. Again, then they have to look at water and wastewater facilities. So I do see most operational plans that come in always kind of have a growth element to them where, where we'd like to be in 5 years, our 10-year plan or and our starting point. So whenever an application comes in, always looking to what matches your specific operation plan the best. And that's the way we process it through the, but there may be elements of a group camp that you might see in a special event permit, facilities permit, and kind of vice versa a little bit. But I think moreover, maybe it'd be the lodging aspect. And so I think in special event facilities, I do think that there could potentially be some lodging.
Another question, I mean, it's pertains to the situation we have, but also I'm thinking like, there was some temporary parking for like race series. Approval and like, so if it's parking just to get people to another event, I think it might just be worth looking at the language a little bit, because like just reading some of the words, it's like the parking
On site.
it sort of implies that it's to support an event on that same parcel, but I know we have situations where that's again with like shuttles. Like
So it could be that we take off on site.
Yeah. So just to sort of anticipate, I mean, again, as we try to shuttle people around to like different things going on in the county and deal with parking constraints, I think this is going to come up more and more where the special event on that parcel is just a parking shuttle.
Yeah,
So it could be supportive. The parcel could be supportive
of
of
another event, but it's not parking as like one little part of a bigger thing. Really, parking is the only thing that's going on.
I just wonder if that ends up being.
Shouldn't parking be its own use on the use table then?
That's what I was thinking.
is.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what maybe it has to be its own. thing.
Yeah, maybe you're amending the parking use on the use table to say that that's something that people could do.
Yeah, and again, I'm thinking of like the stuff we dealt with the race series parking. What we're doing is like there's no power, there's no sanitation. They're there for minutes to 4 hours. All the
Mhm.
daytime thing happens.
So, right, again,
But yes, on like road access and noise and adjacent property owner nuisance protection.
exactly. Absolutely, there would be some overlaps there, and that, again, that's taking the application in, seeing what the operational plan is, and then applying it to the use table, because there is a parking aspect, use within the table, and is it simply parking, or maybe it's parking and occasionally offering other supportive aspects, which really do end up being a special event facility, like it could grow into more, so.
Yeah, I can see like for the longer things, like I don't know what they did for the race series shuttles, but did they have porta potties there?
Yeah,
Could they have a
trying to figure that out. Yeah.
mini aid station? Could they have,
Yeah.
who knows what the, what it could, so the ability, this just adds more options. Is what it really does, as we get in different operational plans, it gives one more place to say this use really identifies really here. And sometimes I'm trying to think that we, and I think that also, I think it adds the ability to have another place to fit in different operational plans that have a lot of the same elements in them. So yeah, we would go with whatever is the closest fit, but this gives more sight.
Gives another option.
Yeah.
But it does bring up a question about whether or not we need the words on site on the parking. What are people's thoughts on that? Just because I'm thinking, what you were just saying, as far as people fitting parking lots and like, what if it's really that I have this agreement with this guy that everybody parks down here and then we all hike up to this, do we have to show that parking's on site? Do we care if it's on site as long as they have adequate parking?
Probably
Right.
don't make any difference.
Instead of
What?
just providing a parking plan as a part
Yeah.
of the operational plan.
So maybe remove on site from that word as well as the 50-foot setback.
Yeah, because there's some, I mean, yeah, so
Who
there's some
knows?
sense where it's almost better if it's not on site and people are doing things.
Yeah, right.
But
Especially
just
for
parking
backcountry, you can
on
almost
the Forest
incentivize
Service road is inappropriate.
Yeah, exactly. Like they've got to show that they have somewhere that's adequate for sure.
Yeah, and again, just as a case study, I mean, that's the situation we're in, like, they have a Forest Service permit to do the wedding ceremony, but they can't park their cars on the side of that Forest Service road for that 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But our gate is 30 feet away,
Yeah, right.
so they can park on our land, walk to the permit ceremony,
Yeah,
not leave their cars illegally.
Right.
So this ceremony is not on our property, the parking not on the Forest Service property.
yeah. So in your situation, I would think you'd fall under parking and not under special event. But yeah, good question. But yeah, I think it doesn't have to be on site, it seems like. And then we have something in here about when they have to do their mitigation or their management plan, there's something about like fire. That was the only other thing I was wondering about was fire protection plan or some kind of mitigation. I guess I don't really.
No, I think that's, kind of in the emergency plan.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
think fire mitigation is certainly on a huge priority right now. So
Yeah, so adding that maybe.
Yep.
I think especially with backcountry, that's smart.
Well, yeah, almost with anything that's gonna have 10 acres, I feel like we're gonna want it to, because I just, we want sparklers and fireworks that are, like, that's just, nope. Not here. Any other thoughts folks have?
Well, I just want to go back to a point where Anne talked about structures and whatnot. Are folks, and so if they get approved, are folks allowed to build any structures? Are there any requirements, or would they submit a separate application if they want to have a structure out there?
So the structure itself will require, depending on what it is, but most likely it'll hit the threshold for a building permit. And so we'll have the zoning part of getting the entitlement on the land, and then we'll address the structure through the building permit process.
But part of the conditional use permit application is this telling us what that looks like. So it's not like, hey, we want to do this. We're not going to tell you they're going to put 6 giant purple buildings on this lot, right? Like they have to tell us what their plan is as far as building. And it could be, like Ann said, phased. Like at first we may only have 1 building, then we hope to have another. And then once they get that approval, if it changes, they have to come back for an amendment. So anything that they construct has to meet building code, but it also has to be approved as part of their application for the conditional use permit. Does that answer the question?
This is great. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
The only other thing I can, and this is, I don't think it's necessarily in here, is just like enforcement around this. Someone's throwing much bigger events than what was approved through the CUP process. Just for my knowledge, how is that handled?
I think that's a great question, and it kind of leads into just kind of an aside, and something I want to just share. All conditional use permits, it's written in the code, shall, if they are not operating under their use, they can be brought in for a revocation hearing or a clarification hearing. So automatically, straight across the board, all conditional use permits need to be operating as they've been permitted. And if we receive a complaint or we receive information that they aren't, that is the basis for a caused hearing with the board to review their special use permit and make sure that they are operating to address any complaints. And that can lead into all kinds of outcomes, and just that could be, okay, you're tracking and maybe you needed a gentle reminder that these things, and if you want to do something different, then you're going to have to come back through the process. Or it could be as extreme as the basis for revocation of the conditional use permit. So that is automatically built in the code on all special use permits.
Conditional use permits.
Yeah. Conditional use, yeah. Permits. And the other thing is that we are currently, certainly want everyone to spread the word. We are currently have a job posted for a code compliance outreach coordinator. And, we really want to make sure, there currently are a couple conditional use permits out there that we probably will be looking to have conversations with the permit holders, because there is evidence that they are tracking with their original entitlement. And so we want to be able to reach out to these folks and see if there is a way to educate them, have good communication with them and bring them into compliance. But if those methods don't work, then we do have something in the code to kind of worst case scenario to mitigate that if they can't reach compliance. So a little plug for anybody and everybody that that wants to be working in land use, send them our direction. We have three positions pending right now. And then yeah. Oh, and then which one? Oh, and yeah, one's part-time. The code outreach could be part-time, and we'd love somebody that really knows the lay of the land. And
That's exactly what I was.
I was looking at Howard. And so that potential anyway, so it's good plug that we are being really cognizant of that and hoping to attract someone to come in and kind of help with that moving forward, so that we can make sure that our conditional use permits are tracking the way they were intended to, and that they are operating as they were permitted. And so we do have something built into the code, and hopefully we've got some new ideas about making sure that that's working better than maybe it has in the past.
Any other thoughts, questions?
And another thought too, Abby, is that there could be, that can be another condition of approval. It typically is, all statements and information in the application is considered a condition of approval. So it's kind of a standard condition that's always suggested by staff, that holds them to, and it binds, all of the information and statements that they've made as a condition that they are going to operate the way that they said that they will.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I wonder if you're gonna, and sorry, I feel like another question.
That's
But like, I wonder if we'll get standing CUPs coming back in to try to integrate this. I don't know if that would just be the start a CUP process over again, or
Yep, we don't currently have an amendment process. So if you want to revisit, if you want to add certain aspects that you weren't permitted, that you hadn't considered in your original operations, we have one coming in probably for our July 25th that has a conditional use permit, and they want to expand and look at adding uses that they hadn't considered before. So right now you do have to go back through the process.
but if someone, I guess, like in their business plan said wedding venue, this doesn't change that. Like, this doesn't, they
No,
were,
if they had approval for whatever use they're using it for right now, they get to keep that approval.
yeah.
They would only have to reapply if they were gonna change things because this maybe opened up some new windows for them or something.
Yeah,
That would be the only reason to go through it again.
that makes sense. This is, yeah, this is just us being clearer in the language going forward.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay, cool, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to get all the questions out. So, because the idea here is that we talk about it tonight. If we don't see any major concerns, we have a little time after the DOLA training next. So we have a couple weeks to think of more questions and thoughts on this. Talk about it again, but the idea is this goes to.
To a recommendation. So I'll be bringing it to you July 11th. I'll go back and take some of the input this evening, and then we'll have an opportunity to talk about it again in 2 weeks after the DOLA training concludes, just to kind of let it marinate, let you spend some time with it. And at that meeting, hopefully, we'll look at the few changes that we talked about tonight. I'll incorporate those, send them back out, and then with the hope that at the next opportunity, if there's anything else out there, any fine tuning of this, that we would address it then, and then be queuing it up for a recommendation, staff bringing it forward, asking for a recommendation from the Planning Commission to take it to the board for adoption.
Cool. Any more discussion tonight on it? Anybody have any other thoughts, or does everybody feel like it's a pretty good structure so far and a good addition?
Great. Yeah, great.
Yeah, makes sense.
Good. That sounds great. If you think of something, you can always email it to me. If I know it's still fairly new, and so if you spend a little time and you'd like to email something in the next couple weeks so that it can get included, I'll queue it up for discussion on the 27th. I had to do the math.
I know.
On the 27th. So, feel free. You don't have to have all the answers or thoughts or consensus tonight. Feel free to send over any thoughts that you might have, and I'll make sure that we incorporate those into the next meeting on it.
And just super quick clarification, we have DOLA, the SCO application, and then this discussion.
Right.
So yeah, any questions or thoughts you can get to Anne before that meeting on the 27th would probably be helpful, so we can, just because I don't know how much time we're going to end up with on the 27th, or how much more time we want to go into it, but then that way on July 11th, I think we have that slated to just be kind of a quick piece of the agenda so that we work out our questions and stuff between now and then. So yeah, if you have anything, maybe send it off to Anne between now and 2 weeks and we can chat about it again then.
Sorry, just one other thing, just to save an email.
Yeah.
Is, I mean, it seems just from hearing the discussions, like two of the like sort of overarching main concerns might be good to like really state clearly in the kind of a preamble in the first or something. It's like, you know, avoiding impacts on neighboring landowners, like sort of noise or trash effects and traffic.
Yeah.
And this to me seem like the most obvious problems that have come up from, you know, pretty serious stuff.
Sure.
Like, we got phone calls about traffic. Name it. So like, if you avoid those two. I think there's a problem.
Absolutely, right. I mean, that's kind of the at the core of identifying, you know, any adverse impacts and mitigating them. You know, all of the kind of use specific standards are exactly to your point, Jeff. They're meant to buffer the use from adjacent properties and uses to mitigate adverse impacts.
Cool. Any other thoughts before we?
Can enjoy one short meeting.
We got a short meeting.
It's not gonna.
Take
We're not gonna
advantage of
wanna
it.
Take advantage of it tonight. Get yourself ready.
Yeah, and so like others said, anything you can send me ahead of time would be great, because I just hearing the, you know, the kind of what I'm reading tonight from everyone is I don't anticipate that we're gonna do a lot of changes to this. So I wouldn't anticipate that we're gonna have a lot of time on the agenda on the 27th. So if you start looking at it and have some bigger issues, if you can let me know right away, that would be great. Just trying to kind of honor the agenda time on the 27th. I think the DOLA training is an hour and a half. The scenic conservation overlay, that has all been sent to you all. If I will send it to you again, just so it's in your inbox. And so you see that. I'm going to try to be really careful about all the next information that I send to you, because it may start feeling a little overwhelming. But my intention is after tonight, tomorrow, I'm going ahead and sending you the applications that you're going to see in July. I know that will mean there will be 4 applications coming your way, one of which is this special event facilities use. So this one you've already seen. So that's not going to be anything new. Then there'll be 3 CUPs, 2 outfitter and guides, and 1 accessory dwelling unit. So those will be new. I'll send you the scenic conservation overlay application again, just so it's queued up and you're ready for it. And then DOLA, I believe, will be sending us some kind of handout. So that's the information that will be coming to you next. I'm just going to try to kind of send things out without overwhelming you, because right behind that, as soon as we finish, we'll be ready to come at you right afterwards. So I am going to try and send this in digestible amounts of information.
Really keep track of all that when you just tell me it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what you're doing.
Some variance.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, and email me anytime. I know it's gonna be a lot coming up, and just like you saw, I accidentally sent you the same staff report twice instead of the RM and the use. I'll be checking my work a little bit closer, and just a quick shout out. I don't know if let me see if he's still here with us. Yes. So John has had, will be transitioning out of our department, going on to an amazing opportunity. You can reach out to him and he will share that with you. I'm really not at liberty to share, but super excited for him. But we will be losing John from our team. Marla and I are really sad about that and excited for him at the same time. And that'll happen about a month from now. So again, big shout out to anybody that you know that has any land use experience or anybody interested, we do have positions posted right now in our department. So just yated for John, and just a little plug for staffing.
All right, well. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Then make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Awesome, thank you guys. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Bye. Thank
And-
you.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Take care. And I saw. You